So we'd have to come up with that other line. It's another example. Jonathan Kozel focuses on one illiterate mother of four raising her children in the squalor of a New York City welfare hotel in The Homeless and Their Children. I also wanted to call attention to how we feature these titles. For instance, this is a short work. It's an article. It might the same thing would be done with maybe the title of a poem or the title of a chapter in a book. We use quotation marks around it, open the quote, close the quote, and that's just sort of standard fare. And let me backtrack here just a moment. Here we see Cask of Amontillado also, which is a short story, has quotation marks around it there too. Then in our first example, The Grapes of Wrath is a book, a very thick book, I might add. And so books get a different treatment. Instead of quotation marks around them, we always italicize the titles. In the old days, up until about a year and a half ago, MLA style format, Modern Language Association, used underline to feature book titles. But that's just changed. In case you're not aware of it, it changed sometime last year. So let's go back to where we were. But we can see Cask of Amontillado is a short story. The Homeless and Their Children is it's actually a short piece, an excerpted piece of a book, but it's kind of featured just like an essay or a short story or an article in a magazine might be. In The Homeless and Their Children, Jonathan Kozel explores, there's our precise verb in this case. What does he explore? So usually whatever comes after this precise verb can serve as the overview. So it becomes the, whatever phrase or clause you come up with can kind of serve as the direct object of that verb that you choose. So what does Jonathan Kozel explore? He explores the connection between poverty and illiteracy as he describes the hardships of one homeless family. So we have kind of two versions of that. So there we have author and title, precise verb, and the overview line. And I've included a list of precise verbs. I always encourage my students in class to either write these down or hang on to their notes that they've made or their copy of the PowerPoint and add to this list, because this is by no means a complete list. But sometimes you need a list in front of you. It's not that that you guys do not know what these words mean. Many of them are very elementary words. But the thing is, after you've been through, 2 or 3 weeks of tests and papers and getting, lack of sleep, maybe having to work overtime or something, sometimes your brain sort of shorts out. I know mine does. And there are times when I'm really articulate and I pull those 25-buck words out of the air, and I do fine. Other days, I can't even tell you my own address. It's just kind of like burnout. So it's really nice to go back to a list, and the only thing you have to make sure is that you use whatever verb you choose is going to work for the situation that you're describing. Many of these words are very general. For example, explores, discusses, explains, even examines. Those could be used, in many situations. Also, some others here. Let me put the other list up. Focuses on, I think, is one of them, or reports. Notes, focuses on. Those, like I said, could be used in almost any situation. But some of these, you might want to use them in certain cases, but you just want to make sure that the case, that the verb that you choose suits that case. For example, evaluates. Evaluates usually have to do with, in fact, you can see the word value in here. Value. So evaluates has a judgment call in it. And when you evaluate, or when somebody else evaluates something, they're giving their value judgment about it. They're saying it's either it's good or it's bad or it's this or it's that. So you would only want to use that in connection with an author and his work if that is what he's truly doing. You wouldn't want to use it if he was just presenting information and not making any judgment on it, then that would not be a good choice for that one. The same way with argues. Here again, that's going to involve some subjective opinion giving by the source with his in his article or his book. So we just have to make sure that it suits. Compares and contrasts. Here again, if that's what the author's doing in his article or his essay, then that would be appropriate to use. Analyzes has to do with, analysis usually involves taking things apart conceptually and trying to determine the relationship between the parts, different parts of something, and how those parts work together for the whole thing. So analysis is involved in that kind of more, and even things like synthesis. Chronicles, it has that little relationship there with Cronus, who, the chronological order, which means time order. This happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. So chronicles usually associated with someone either listing the events or telling about something and how it happened in the order that it happened. Might be chronicling adventures of something. But it's nice to have a little list there for when you have those days like I certainly do when my mind just will not work for me.